오신 여러분 진심으로 환영합니다. 시스코 코리아 최지희 대표님을 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 힘찬 박수 부탁드립니다.
안녕하세요. 여러분, 시스코 코리아 대표 최지희입니다. 여기 오신 많은 분들과 유튜브, 전자신문을 통해서 이 행사에 참여해 주신 모든 분들께 감사의 말씀 드립니다. 시스코 커넥트 2016 코리아에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 감사합니다. 저희가 작년 이맘때 시스코 커넥트 행사를 했었고 그때도 사실 AI 관련된 얘기를 많이 했었는데 그때는 초창기였던 것 같고요. 지난 1년간을 되돌아보면 이 AI에 대한 관심과 진화가 엄청난 속도로 일어나고 있다는 것을 느끼실 수 있을 겁니다. 그래서 저희 시스코도 지난 1년간 새로운 AI 기술 또 혁신적인 여러 가지 새로운 기술들을 많이 출시를 했고요. 그 부분은 오늘 저희가 설명드리려고 합니다. 근데 일각에서는 지금 AI가 버블이 아니냐 이런 질문을 또 많이 하시고 저도 고객들을 만났을 때 제일 많이 하시는 질문이 버블 아니냐 이런 질문을 많이 하시는데요. 여러분도 아시다시피 또 닷컴 붐일 때도 그랬지만 어떤 새로운 패러다임을 변화를 시키는 그런 혁신적인, 혁명적인 기술이 왔을 때는 항상 약간의 버블이 있지만 어떤 그런 과도기, 조정기를 거치고 캐즘을 넘어가면 진짜 옥석이 가려지면서 이제 새로운 세상이 열릴 거라고 저희도 보고 있고 또 많은 마켓 리더들이 그렇게 보고 있습니다. 그래서 지금 이 순간에 이제 도래하는 AI 시대를 우리와 같이 다 여러분들과 저희가 준비를 해야 되는데 그 여정에서 저희 시스코가 앞으로 AI 시대에 맞는 크리티컬 인프라를 같이 할 수 있는 가장 최적의 파트너라고 저희는 자신하고 그 내용을 오늘 행사를 통해서 자세히 설명드리려고 합니다. 오늘 저희가 중심적으로 말씀드리는 내용에는 저희가 가장 잘하는 AI 네트워킹 그리고 보안 관련된 observability가 중심이 될 거고요. 그 여러 기술 중에서 오늘 행사를 통해서 잠깐 어떤 세션이 있는지 간략히 소개해 드리겠습니다. 우선 오늘 키노트가 오전에 있을 것이고 오후에 5개 트랙에 30개 세션이 준비되어 있습니다. 이 5개 트랙은 시스코가 늘 말씀드리는 AI 레디 데이터 센터, 미래지향적인 업무 공간, 그리고 디지털 회복 탄력성 이 세 가지에 금년 행사에는 이제 새로 저희가 고객의 사례를 말씀드릴 수 있는 고객 경험 트랙 그리고 엔지니어 분들을 위한 기술 심화 트랙을 준비했습니다. 그리고 1층에 가시면은 저희 파트너사와 또 시스코가 준비한 여러 가지 다양한 데모 부스가 있으니 꼭 방문해 주시기 바라고요. 올해 특히 저희 3층에 AI 이노베이션 허브를 마련했습니다. 이 AI 이노베이션 허브에는 유수의 AI 기업 그리고 저희가 파트너십을 맺고 있는 경기도 그리고 연세대 창업센터에 참여하고 있는 새로운 AI 스타트업들이 참여해서 여러분들께 새로운 아이디어를 보여주실 것입니다. 그래서 꼭 방문해 주시고요. 오늘의 이 행사가 이분들 없었으면 이 회사가 없었으면 저희가 할 수 없었을 것 같아요. 그래서 오늘의 행사는 여기에 참여해 주신 12개 파트너사의 도움으로 가능했습니다. 저희 행사를 도움을 주신 엔비디아 리더스 시스템을 비롯한 12개 파트너사의 큰 감사 말씀 다시 한번 드립니다. 제가 이제 키노트를 시작을 해볼 텐데요. 오늘의 기조연설은 아까 말씀드린 AI 시대에 필요한 크리티컬 인프라, AI 네트워킹을 중심으로 저희가 기조연설을 만들어 봤습니다. 그래서 이번 시스코 커넥트 행사에는 특히 저희 본사에서도 많은 지원을 해주시고 또 관심을 보여주셔서 저희가 저희 본사의 시니어 VP 5분을 모셔서 차례대로 기조연설을 듣도록 하겠습니다. 또한 시스코하고 전략적으로 파트너십을 갖고 있는 우리 엔비디아 코리아의 정소영 대표님도 같이 발표를 해주실 예정입니다. 그러면 저희 키노트의 첫 연사로 저희 시스코 아시아 퍼시픽 총괄 사장이시고 제 보스이기도 한 벤 도슨을 소개하겠습니다. 많은 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Kathy. Good morning, all, and welcome to Cisco Connect. Very excited to be here, and this is an incredible turnout today. And I did want to start by saying a big thank you. Thank you to the team that makes this possible, to Kathy and her team and all the global folks. Thank you to everyone in this room. We appreciate you all have very busy lives, very busy jobs, and it's not lost on us that you've chosen to take a day out and spend with Cisco. But I can guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. We have an incredible array of speakers. We have incredible partners out in the foyer that Kathy touched on. This is a great opportunity for you to learn more about the big technology trends and understand what's really happening and think about ways you can apply that in your business. So we appreciate your time. I'm going to talk a little bit about transformations, and there is no doubt that we are in the middle of what is probably the largest transformation in our lifetimes. AI promises to impact every aspect of our lives, be it our personal lives, business, economies, societies, in many ways we don't yet fully understand. And it's happening in this part of the world faster than anywhere. The Asia-Pacific region is modernizing at a rate that's the envy of much of the rest of the world. By 2030, it's estimated that over 50% of the world's GDP will come from this part of the world. It is the fastest growing middle class anywhere on the planet. We're seeing innovation and incubation. We're seeing adoption of 5G at levels that we've not seen before. And Korea is a standout in this. Korea is innovating around many technologies, including AI, in the delivery of R&D, semiconductors, manufacturing, biotech. And it's really fusing together AI and bringing to life the physical aspects of AI and showing the rest of the world what's possible. So congratulations to those of you in the room involved in these programs and these projects. It truly is world-class and world-leading. And Cisco's aligning to this opportunity to support you, our customers. These priorities from Cisco are not things that we dream up. These are things that we align to based on what you tell us is important to you. And in preparing for this AI transition, you tell us that you need to modernize your infrastructure. Much of the world's technology infrastructure, networking infrastructure is aging. And it was also built in different ways for a different time. So as we think about modernizing, it's not just updating what you already have, it's also thinking about those network investments differently to prepare for this new era. And of course, none of this matters if we can't secure it. And as we modernize that infrastructure, we're very much focused on ensuring we start with a secure network approach, fusing security into the fabric of the network, fusing security into everything we do, not as an addendum, not as an attach to those investments, but in the core of those investments. And of course, we need to get ready to take advantage of this AI opportunity. There are many aspects of AI that are still unclear. Which use cases, which models will prevail, what's the true business value? But what we do know is there are no regret moves that you can make today to prepare your organization for wherever that AI journey takes you. And Cisco's very much centered on helping you build that AI ready infrastructure today. And we don't do it alone. Cisco partners have been part of Cisco's business, not an extension of our business, but they're absolutely critical part of the way we translate Cisco's technology and offerings to meaningful outcomes for you. And that's been the case for decades. Today is no different. In fact, we're fueling that. Just recently, we announced the biggest transition in our partner programs in over 2 decades when we launched Cisco 360. Cisco 360 acknowledges that you as customers are dealing with such a wide array of technology these days that you need to understand more about each partner that is in the market. We've asked partners to invest and align to Cisco's strategy and make deep investments in specific technology areas. For you, that means now you can, using the partner locator, you can find not only partners in your area, but partners who have made those investments in the specific technologies you want to focus on. Be it networking, be it collaboration, be it security, be it AI. So this will help you find the right partner for your requirements. I mentioned the size and scale of the transition, and it is big, but it's not the first time we've done this, and we've done it together in the past. We started by building the internet together, and many of you in this room probably weren't involved in this industry when that happened. I was lucky enough to be there when it happened. It was an incredible transition that upended much of our lives and upended and fundamentally changed industry for good. We then took the internet, we put the internet in our pocket, took it on the road and made it mobile. We then helped organisations build the cloud infrastructure they required so that to meet the changing needs of their applications and business processes. We then saw mass digitisation of industry. If you think about your daily lives now, everything you do, be it banking, be it social services, be it work, be it transport, everything is increasingly digitised. And of course, we responded to the changing needs of our workforces. The office remains a strong part of how people come together and how they work. But equally, we want to make people effective wherever they choose to work, be that at home, be that on the road, or be that in a formal structured office. AI is just the next version of this transition, and we have the opportunity to go on that journey together again. The question is, are we ready? Cisco conducts an annual survey known as our AI Readiness Index. We did the third annual survey recently, and what it tells us is that it appears only some of us are truly ready to embrace the opportunity. What we found is only 13% of organisations were truly ready and fitted into what we call the pace setter category. And this looked at not only technology readiness, it also looked at governance, business process, security, policy, skills, all the aspects you would need to fully embrace AI. And whilst that number's low, I think it's very instructive to look at what those pace setters do very well. Firstly, AI is not a side project. They don't have a business strategy and an AI strategy. Their AI strategy is embedded in the business, and they have clear processes to transition from pilot to production. They've identified, in most cases, what are the business and use cases they want to pursue, and they have a clear plan to get there. They're not thinking about security as an extension. They're fusing security into all aspects of their process and their infrastructure as they build it. And they're also building infrastructure for where they need to go. What we do know about AI is it will fundamentally change the way traffic moves through our organisation, the size and shape of that traffic. And Cisco's bringing together our portfolio in several areas to create platforms to make it easier for you to execute against your ambitions. We're organising our technology around AI-ready data centres, the network, the security, the compute, the storage, the observability, into predefined, clearly defined stacks, so you can make no-regret decisions on what that infrastructure can look like. We're future-proofing our workplaces for a different era, where it's no longer about people communicating with people or people accessing information. It's now people to machine. It's agent to people. It's agent to agent. That will change the nature of work and where we do that from and how that's conducted. As we've built more into the network and put more dependence on our infrastructure, the criticality of resilience is higher than ever. And we're very, very focused on ensuring we can deliver to you secure networking infrastructure, reliable infrastructure, so that you have those underpinnings, again, to support the business requirements as they come down. But we're not just reorganising what we already have, we're innovating at a pace that I've not seen in my 25 plus years in Cisco. And here is just an example of what we have delivered in the last year. And you'll see it's wide and varied. It's everything from core hardware with our Silicon One G300 that I think you'll hear more about today. So that's a fundamental building block of the network. Through to AI Canvas, which is an AI-driven model that allows you to rethink how we manage networks and environments, how we respond to issues, how we respond to issues before they arise, and how we collaborate in very, very different and new ways. And you'll get to see much of this through the course of today. So in closing, again, thank you for being part of it. I know this is going to be a great day for all of us, and please take the opportunity to walk away with some ideas that you can take back to your business. And I think what the point we're at in the world today in this transition is there is much hype. There are some people questioning what's the real value, where will it head? I would say you ignore AI at your peril. Those organisations that embrace it today, make the infrastructure decisions they can make today to set themselves up for a flexible future, will be the ones that ultimately prevail and ultimately realise the true value of AI. Thank you again and have a great day.
네, 발표 감사합니다. 자, 앞서 안내해드린 것처럼 오늘 키노트의 영어 세션은 리시버를 통한 현장 동시 통역과 시스코 파트너인 플리토 기술이 담긴 AI 실시간 자막 서비스가 동시에 제공됩니다. 원하시는 방법으로 자유롭게 이용해 주시기 바랍니다. 다음 키노트 연사인 시스코 아웃시프트 총괄 매니저 겸 수석 부사장이신 비조이 판데이님을 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 힘찬 박수 부탁드립니다.
Good morning, Seoul, and welcome to Cisco Connect. I wanted to start this presentation with one of my favorite quotes. This is from Thomas Kuhn from his book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. And what it basically means in a very simple way is that scientific evolutions and revolutions, discoveries, happen in paradigm shifts that appear to happen suddenly. But it takes us decades, sometimes even centuries, to take that paradigm shift and derive value, derive utility out of that paradigm shift across all of humanity. And we are actually going through such a paradigm shift in computing today. For decades, all of us were very familiar with one simple rule in computing. Same input, same output every single time. Determinism. But we are now moving away from deterministic computing to probabilistic computing, where you don't get that rule. It's not true that the same input will result in the same output every single time. Why do this? Why do we need probabilistic engines? Because very simply put, some of the really hard problems that we deal with as humanity are not deterministic in nature. They don't have a single best answer. It's a probabilistic question that you ask. And what are some of those questions? There are things like financial modeling, things like weather modeling, weather prediction, drug discovery, materials discovery, logistics and travel planning. All of these problems, hard problems, don't have a single answer. It's not a deterministic answer. It's a probabilistic answer. And this is what we are going to work with probabilistic engines around. These engines, these probabilistic engines are actually coming at us in two different waves, right after each other. The first one is agentic computing, and that's happening right now. And Ben was touching upon a little bit of that earlier. The second one, which is not far behind, is quantum computing. And that one is actually accelerating year by year, quarter by quarter. And we're going to talk about each one of these waves, agentic and quantum, and what Cisco is trying to do in terms of infrastructure, in terms of networking, security, observability, to make both of these accelerate and happen. Starting with agentic. So here's the story. The path to superintelligence, the path to artificial superintelligence, believe it or not, is actually mirroring exactly the evolution of human intelligence. And what do I mean by that? If you think about human intelligence, we started with making humans individually smarter and better. We got bigger brains. We learned how to work with fire. We learned how to make tools. We learned how to work with those tools to do things like hunt and sketch and stitch and dig. And we became individually really, really smart. But what was the problem? The problem was that we were isolated. Individuals got smarter and smarter, but as a civilization, we remain the same. And about 70,000 years ago, something magical happened. Language was invented. And because of language, what is now known as the cognitive revolution took place. The cognitive revolution is making an individual intelligence go towards collective intelligence. And the way that happened was language enabled us to do two things. First, it allowed us to share goals. So instead of a single human going after a particular goal, you had multiple, a team, a village, go after a common goal. Let's go and build something together. Let's go and capture that hill together. The together was born. The second thing that language allowed us to do was to share knowledge, so that knowledge did not disappear with the individual. You could build upon everybody else's knowledge. You can build upon knowledge generation after generation after generation. And that's how civilizations got formed. Just like language 70,000 years ago moved us from individual to collective intelligence, that exact layer, that infrastructure, is actually being built for AI agents today. Again, think about AI agents. Right now, models and agents, they're becoming bigger, better, smarter. More compute, more data, more parameters, bigger models. They're getting individually smart, but they are all isolated. They're not working together. To accelerate our journey towards superintelligence, we need to make sure that agents can talk to each other, they can understand each other, they can collaborate together. And what we need to do is enable the same unlock that language did to human intelligence. We need to build that layer for agents, starting with protocols. Like languages are the language of humans. Protocols are the languages of machines. Protocols are the languages of agents. And that will allow agents to go after common goals as a team of agents. The second thing, just like humans, we need to have shared knowledge so that when agents go and solve a problem, the next time they come across that same problem, they don't start from scratch. They build on a body of knowledge, institutional knowledge, that has been built over time. And shared knowledge can be enabled through a fabric, because you can connect all of these agents and you can connect memory to this fabric so that knowledge compounds over time. And that platform, that layer, that open framework, we're calling that the Internet of Cognition, and we're building that right now. And why do we need this in an open, interoperable manner? Because just like humans, we all have different expertise. We come together as a team, and we solve for a business outcome. Finance, marketing, engineering, they all have different expertise, but they're coming in and solving for one business outcome. Similarly, agents are going to come from different vendors, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Cisco, Microsoft. But they need to all come together and solve for a business outcome, single business outcome. They will run on different clouds. They will have different identity and access controls. They will belong to different teams and organizations, and they will need to collaborate as a team. Now, this work is happening already in an open and interoperable manner through an open source project that we launched called Agency. We launched it with Google, Dell, Red Hat, Oracle, and more than 80 other organizations. It sits in the Linux Foundation, so it's open for everyone to go in and contribute. And we're building and solving for the hard problems in the infrastructure layer, such as agent identity. It's very different from people identity. Agent discovery is going to be very different from DNS, what we are all familiar with. Agent communication, that's the protocol and the language that we talked about earlier. And agent observability and evaluation. How do we make sure that agents are doing what they're supposed to do and not something else? So all of these pillars of discovery, identity, protocols, and observability are being solved for at agency.org. You can go and contribute there. Click on the QR code if you're interested. And we're not just building that infrastructure. Ben was talking about earlier that these need to be real. Your AI strategy cannot be different from your agent or your business strategy. And we've built these multi-agent teams, and we've solved for business outcomes in many verticals. And we've written these playbooks. Some of these that you see here are in verticals such as healthcare, which is a very difficult vertical to go after and build multi-agent teams around. Network operations, we worked with Swisscom to make sure that their network operations go 100% error-free using agentic platforms. Video surveillance, data management, cloud platform engineering, all of these verticals, there are many, many more that are available that you can come and talk to us about, and we can walk you through the playbooks. And that's agentic computing, and that's what Cisco is trying to do in terms of building out that internet of cognition in agentic computing. But that's that other wave, quantum computing, which seemed very distant, but it's actually accelerating really fast. But the question is, Vijay, you come here, you stand here and you say, all of these hard problems, like weather prediction and drug discovery and materials discovery, aren't we doing that already with foundation models? Well, yes, we are. But guess what's happening? We're building bigger and bigger models. More compute, more storage, more data, more parameters, more energy. This is not sustainable. So this is a quote from one of my favorite physicists, Richard Feynman, who is the father of quantum computing. And what he said was, nature and nature-based problems are not classical in nature, pardon the pun. They are quantum in nature. So instead of using classical computing, why don't we use quantum bits or qubits instead of classical bits and classical computing to solve for those nature-based problems, like weather modeling and protein folding and molecule discovery and so on and so forth. And that's how quantum computing was born. But there's a slight problem. The slight problem is all of those weather modeling and protein discovery and materials discovery, all of those problems require hundreds of thousands of qubits. A quantum computer of the size of hundreds of thousands of qubits or million qubits to solve for those problems. Today, in practice, our quantum computers are at roughly 1,000 to a few thousand qubits in size. There's a big gap between what we need and where we are. So how do you fill this gap? One way is build vertically, build bigger and bigger quantum computers. And that will continue to happen. IBM, Atom Computing, other quantum compute vendors, they will build bigger and bigger computers. But there is a different way. We have learned through cloud computing that you can scale out. In addition to scaling up, you can always scale out, where you can connect a bunch of these quantum computers through a network to enable distributed quantum computing and get to hundreds of thousands and million qubits faster. Very simply put, you can connect 100 of these 1,000 qubit computers and get to 100,000 qubits today. And that's the kind of network we're trying to build. But why stop there? One thing that we're realizing is that the future supercomputer, the supercomputer of the future is going to be a combination of CPUs, GPUs, DPUs, all classical, along with quantum processing units or QPUs, all connected through a singular network. And that is the network that Cisco is trying to build from the ground up. We are building the entire quantum networking stack all the way from silicon, quantum silicon, which is what you see here. This is an entanglement source that we announced last year in May. So all the way from the silicon to the network protocols. These protocols are not your standard OSPF BGP. They are protocols like entanglement distribution, teleportation detection, a brand new set of protocols for the quantum network. And we've announced some of those protocols last year in October. To an application layer, where you can build compilers, you can build applications that take this quantum network into account to enable net new capabilities. And we're building this with two other additional properties which we are really proud about. Number one, the quantum networking of the future is going to operate at room temperature. You don't need cryogenic chambers that you see typically for quantum computing. You don't need that. It will work at room temperature. Our silicon, everything that we've announced, is at room temperature. And the second thing, the quantum network is going to leverage telecom frequencies, the frequencies that we all love and are used to, and is going to run on existing fiber. So you don't have to rip and replace your environment if you want to deploy a quantum network. This is not all theory. We've actually demonstrated this in practice in a real city. In New York City, over 17.6 kilometers of existing fiber that we leased from QTD Systems, which is an existing fiber provider, from Manhattan to Brooklyn and back, going through the busiest telecom carrier hotel in the world at 60 Hudson. And we ran this experiment. We did entanglement swapping, which is the basic quantum networking operation, at 5,000 times better speeds than what had been done in a lab environment before. So real city, real fiber, 5,000 times better throughput than what you've seen in a lab ever before. That we demonstrated maybe about a month ago, and there is a blog out there that talks about this. The second thing that we're doing is, remember we talked about scale out. To scale out quantum computing, we need to work with quantum computing vendors so that we can connect them through a quantum network. So we signed partnerships with IBM on the quantum computing side and with Atom Computing. These are very different kinds of quantum computers. You can connect both of this through a network to then enable that scale out that I mentioned earlier. All of this to say that quantum computing and the day to run some of these really hard problems is actually accelerating super fast. But it also means that Q day, which is the day when a quantum computer can compromise everything that you know and love in classical encryption, that day, Q day, is now slated to be 2029. 2029, that's 2.5 years away. That's the day we all believe we will have quantum computers that will break standard encryption like RSA and Diffie-Hellman that all of us use in the internet today. Not only that, there's already a class of attacks known as Harvest Now, Decrypt Later, HNDL, that could be happening in your environment today. What that does is you have an intruder that is tapping into your network. You don't know about that. They're gathering all of your traffic. They're storing it today. And in 2029, 2.5 years later, when they have access to this quantum computer, they can make all of that information plain text. So everything that you're sending encrypted today will become plain text in 2029 if you're not careful through this HNDL attack. All of this to say, get quantum safe today. Start deploying post-quantum cryptography or PQC in your environment right now. So to wrap, we are at a paradigm shift when it comes to computing. That's happening right now. We are moving away from deterministic computing to probabilistic computing because of all of the hard problems that we need to solve for in society. And there are two waves that are happening, agentic AI and quantum computing. And for both of these, Cisco is building that infrastructure that will enable this paradigm to take shape in terms of networking, in terms of security, in terms of observability. For agentic AI, we are moving from individual intelligence to collective intelligence, and that's happening through this platform, which we're calling the Internet of Cognition. That work is happening in the open at agency.org. On the quantum side, we have real entanglement swapping, a real network that we've demonstrated. We've signed partnerships with quantum computing vendors, which means, yes, you can run these really awesome quantum applications, but you can also run applications to compromise classical security. Q-Day is not far away. Start deploying PQC right now. All of this work and a lot more is happening at the incubator Outshift within Cisco. I run Outshift. We look at emerging technologies in the space of agentic AI, quantum, and next-gen infrastructure. You can go to outshift.com, follow us on LinkedIn. We are always looking for design partners to work with to solve for your needs, your problems, using emerging technologies. So talk to us, reach out to me. With that, thank you.
네, 좋은 발표 감사합니다. 계속해서 두 번째 키노트 세션을 이어서 진행하겠습니다. 본 세션도 동시 통역으로 진행됩니다. 자, 이번엔 시스코 옵티컬 시스템 및 옵틱스 그룹 총괄 수석 부사장이신 빌 가트너님을 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
안녕하세요. My name is Bill Gartner. I have responsibility for optical systems and optics at Cisco, and I'm going to be talking about some of the critical AI infrastructure that Cisco is developing and delivering to our customers. I think we all have to agree that AI is evolving faster than anyone thought possible. We had a key moment just a few years ago. That was the first time that many of us were introduced to a chatbot. We had a chance to interact with ChatGPT and have it answer questions that we thought were very, very challenging questions. And what we've seen since then is an evolution of those large language models to become ever more sophisticated every cycle that these new models are developed. It's a very exciting time to be in tech. We are very excited to be part of the AI infrastructure. Now, these chatbots developed, which are basically human interaction models. You ask a question using natural language, and you get a response back in text, typically. The next phase of development for AI is agentic models, where we have agents running in the network that are, as Vijay talked about, cooperating with each other to solve a problem. Those agents may be co-located, or they may be operating at a distance, but the agents are actually working to solve problems that humans may have solved before. And the next phase of AI is really physical AI, where we have agents that are actually operating on a physical environment. You can think of that as a robot that's operating in a manufacturing environment or in your home. Probably the best example of that is autonomous vehicles, where instant decisions need to be made based on information that's available to that agent. And so this is a very, very complicated set of problems that has to be solved. But AI is making tremendous progress in solving the agentic AI problem as well as physical AI problems. And Cisco is at the forefront of developing the infrastructure that is used in AI applications today. That's AI training and ultimately AI inference, where our enterprise customers will be deploying inference models that will help them in their operations, in their delivering a better customer experience. One of the things that I would say is Cisco is addressing the needs of all of our customers. Today, the hyperscalers are probably the most visible in terms of developing training models. But that will then penetrate into the neo-cloud market, into our service provider customers, and ultimately into our enterprise customers. And what Cisco is delivering is the infrastructure that supports those AI models. And we're going to be talking about the networking and the optics and the software infrastructure that's required to develop these training models and then to carry these models through to inference applications. One of the things that we know is that for a ChatGPT interaction, there's a certain amount of scale required. But as we get into agentic AI, there's an immense amount of capacity that's going to be required in the network. Whether that's a hyperscaler developing that training model, a service provider offering AI as a service, or enterprises leveraging agentic AI, where AI agents may be located throughout the world. and cooperating with each other. There's an unprecedented amount of scale that's going to be required. So let's talk a little bit about the underlying infrastructure for AI. And I want to just talk about the difference between a CPU and a GPU. We're very familiar with CPUs. They've been part of our life for many years. CPUs are the engines that we find in our laptops, in our Macs, and in servers. And CPUs are very well designed for solving sequential problems. It gets a set of instructions and it can follow that set of instructions sequentially. And for many problems, CPUs are the right answer. And we've seen a tremendous evolution in CPU technology from the early days of Intel developing very tiny microprocessors to massively scalable computers that are available today. But AI requires a different class of problem. It's not a sequential problem. AI is a parallel processing problem. In AI, massive matrices need to be multiplexed together. This multiplication factor for matrices requires a parallel solution. And GPUs are ideally suited for solving a parallel problem. They were originally deployed in video applications, a classic parallel problem. And so GPUs are the ideal solution for solving AI problems, for solving learning of an AI network or a neural network that has to be developed as part of a training solution, and then ultimately for inference where we leverage that neural network that's been trained. So we start with a single GPU, and a single GPU may have 1,000 processing cores that are operating in parallel, and so that's ideal for solving an AI problem. We've got all these processing cores that are operating in parallel in a single GPU, but the question becomes, what happens when that GPU is no longer capable of solving that problem? What do you do? Well, the answer is you add more GPUs. And when you add more GPUs, the typical solution is to take maybe 8 of those GPUs and put them into a server. So now we have a server with 8 GPUs, and all of those GPUs can operate in parallel. And each of those GPUs may have thousands of processing cores that are operating in parallel. And so that is very, very effective in solving the classic AI problem. But what happens when that server is not capable of handling all of the parameters of that AI model? And these AI models have evolved from millions to billions and now trillions of parameters that have to be managed in parallel. And so what we do is we stack many of those servers together in a single rack. And that's what's referred to as scale up. That's part of the data center network. That's the scale up network where we network all of these GPUs together, first in a server, and then between servers, but within a rack. That's our scale-up network. Now the question becomes, what happens when we exceed the capacity of that rack? Well, then we add another rack, and that's a scale-out network. And when we scale out that network, we also need networking capabilities to actually connect all of those GPUs in the new rack that we've added. And because those racks are now separated by some distance, we need optics between those racks. Now, what happens when we actually exceed the capability of an individual data center to carry all of those racks? It's hard to imagine, because if you've ever seen a data center, it's a huge, huge building. But what we know is that because of the power requirements for GPUs and the networking and the optics, it becomes reality that we actually exceed the power requirements of a data center. It's not space, it's power. And when that happens, we have to now extend that GPU cluster to another data center. And that requires networking. We have to have very sophisticated networking that now can accommodate the fact that we've got distance between these data centers. It also requires much more sophisticated optics, because now we're sending that signal not just a few meters, but maybe tens of kilometers or hundreds of kilometers or even 1,000 kilometers to another data center. And that's what we refer to as scale across. And Cisco participates in the scale out and scale across portion of the AI infrastructure by building switching, routing, optics, and silicon in support of this. So we have built high-performance solutions for all of the customer domains, whether it's a hyperscaler or a service provider or enterprises, in building these massively scalable AI networks. And we do that by leveraging core technologies. We invest very significantly in silicon. That's networking silicon, switch silicon. We invest then in building the systems that carry that silicon. That could be a switch that sits in the data center carrying Ethernet traffic. We invest in the optics that are used to interconnect those switches, and software. And our customers have different software requirements. Some of our customers are comfortable using a Cisco operating system like Nexus OS or OS XR. Other customers want to use a variant of Sonic, an emerging operating system used in data center applications. And some of our customers have their own custom software. We accommodate all of those variants in our systems. And then finally, we support multiple operating models. Some customers want all of the AI infrastructure on-prem. If they're an enterprise customer, they may desire to have that on-prem. If it's a sovereign application, we may have to make sure that it stays within country. And some customers are happy to leverage infrastructure that's sitting in a cloud or sitting in a service provider environment and being offered as a service. So we have many different operating models that we have to support. But the three key pillars that we focus on for our customers is, number one, increasing performance. And we've seen dramatic gains in AI over the last few years as these large language models have developed very sophisticatedly and supporting many, many more parameters in each one of those models. But we also have to simplify operations for our customers. And that includes not only creating an operating model that is simple for them to deploy this infrastructure, but also focusing on things like their OpEx costs, like space and power, and helping to reduce those costs. And then finally, and you'll hear this as a recurring theme for Cisco, is that as AI is deployed into our customer environments, it's increasingly important that we fuse security into the network. And the reason we have to do that is, number one, we have to make sure that these agentic agents are accessing information and only the information that they're entitled to. So we have to protect the user from these agents and make sure that an agent that's not entitled to access, for instance, compensation information in an enterprise is not getting access to that information. And then secondly, we have to protect the AI infrastructure attacks. And those outside attacks are increasingly smart because those attackers are now using AI to become very smart about where there may be vulnerabilities in the infrastructure. So we have recently announced, in support of scale-out architectures, new silicon. This is a G300 silicon, and I actually carry a piece of this around in my pocket. This is one single ASIC. And for those of you that may have been involved in ASIC development or silicon development over time, this is a massive, massive achievement. This supports 102 terabits of capacity in one single chip. Just an amazing, amazing achievement. And silicon is a key area of investment for Cisco, and that allows us to build systems that support that silicon. So we have introduced a 102 terabit switch that supports this silicon that we've recently introduced. And we have that in a number of variants. Our Nexus portfolio, as well as our 8000 series of routers, support this G300 silicon. And with those systems, we have to deliver optics. Optics, again, are used to interconnect those switches, whether it's in a scale-out or scale-across application. In scale-out, we are still inside the four walls of a data center. We're adding racks of equipment and having to connect those racks. And we do that with 800 gig or 1.6 terabit optics. We've introduced a 1.6 terabit optic that can be used in that application. We've also introduced an 800 gig optic that is low power, designed for very low power applications or constraints that customers may have in their environment that would require very low power. Now, scale across, again, is when we leave the data center. We actually have to extend the GPU cluster from one data center to another because we've run out of power in the first data center. And in that application, we have introduced a new silicon called the P200 that sits in a 51 terabit router. That router has some special capabilities. Number one, it's designed for massive scale and performance, like any other switch that would reside in a data center. But it's also designed to support deep buffering. And that deep buffering is required because we now have distance as a challenge. And as we increase the distance over a fiber optic link, the need for resilience becomes much more significant. We have to protect against bit errors and failures that are naturally going to occur on a fiber optic link. And with that, we have also introduced pluggable coherent optics. Those pluggable coherent optics are being deployed by all of the hyperscalers and now over 450 service provider customers and large enterprises throughout the world. And Cisco is the leader in this technology. We've shipped over 750,000 of these optics at 400 gig to hyperscalers and service providers. The key unique thing about these optics relative to inside the data center is that they're designed for carrying an optical signal over a very long distance. Not only sending it a couple of kilometers within a data center, but sending it hundreds or even 1,000 kilometers on fiber that's outside the data center. And we're expanding that portfolio now to include other operating systems. So we'll support Sonic as well as Cisco's native operating systems, and expanding the portfolio of our modular routers and switches to include 28 terabit line cards. The innovations for these hyperscalers are coming to data center customers everywhere. They start in hyperscalers, but these innovations will work their way into service providers and enterprise customers over time. One of the key things that I think we have to keep in mind as we look at agentic AI is the need for hyper-distributed security. Historically, we have delivered firewalls, and firewalls protect the network at the perimeter. And we have a full portfolio of firewalls. We're very happy and proud to talk about that. We can support firewalls in any application, whether it's a branch, campus, data center, or cloud application. But those firewalls protect at the perimeter. They don't necessarily protect traffic inside the network, and they need to all be synchronized and consistent in terms of the policy that's been deployed. And so we now have the option of delivering a secure firewall leveraging our Cisco Security Cloud Control. And what Cisco Security Cloud Control allows us to do is enforce a consistent policy across all of the firewall applications, whether it's an appliance that Cisco would deliver you, whether it's a third-party firewall, whether it's a firewall sitting in a router or a firewall sitting in the cloud. But the key innovation that Cisco is bringing is what we call Hypershield. And that involves actually fusing security into the network appliance. And we do that by adding a DPU, which is a data processing unit, that can implement a firewall function inside a switch. And as we deploy these switches in the network, we can check for attacks and check for compliance with the policy at the furthest point into the network that's required, closest to the user or closest to the workload. And so this can provide a much, much better sense of protection for your network than just protecting at the perimeter. So in summary, Cisco is building the key core networking infrastructure for AI applications. That includes switches, routers, software, silicon, and optics that build all this capability for our customers, whether they're hyperscalers, service providers, or enterprises. We'd very much invite you to hear more about that. Thank you again for being with us today. 감사합니다.
네, 좋은 발표 감사합니다. 이번 세션은 오늘 행사의 플래티넘 스폰서인 엔비디아 코리아의 정소영 대표님을 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 환영의 박수 부탁드립니다.
네, 안녕하십니까. 엔비디아 정소영입니다. 저희 지난 3월달 GTC 사노스 행사가 있었고 거기서 굉장히 다양한 종류의 발표들이 많이 있었습니다. 그래서 그런 내용들을 오늘 짧게나마 또 이런 중요한 시스코 커넥트 행사에서 말씀드릴 수 있게 돼서 무척 영광스럽게 생각합니다. 네, 발표를 시작하겠습니다. 먼저 엔비디아 다들 GPU 회사로 많이들 알고 계시죠. 하지만 실질적으로 저희가 만들고 있는 다양한 하드웨어, 소프트웨어 플랫폼들은 소위 말하는 가속 컴퓨팅 플랫폼이라는 형태로 만들어지고 있습니다. 저희가 꽤 오래전부터 이런 가속 컴퓨팅 플랫폼을 만들게 된 이유는 굉장히 단순합니다. 미래는 점점 데이터가 많아지고 있고 또 데이터가 많아지게 되면 더 많은 컴퓨팅이 필요할 수밖에 없는 그런 이유 때문이고, 그런 여러 가지 현상들을 전통적인 어떤 데이터 센터 컴퓨팅 환경에 있어서는 효과적으로 해결할 수 없다라는 그런 단순한 그런 이 현실 인식으로부터 저희가 이런 부분들을 시작을 하게 됐고, 그런 대표적인 데이터 센터 컴퓨팅의 분야, 이런 가속 컴퓨팅의 분야가 AI 분야죠. 그래서 최근 잘 아시는 것처럼 AI는 급격하게 발전하고 있고, 이런 어떤 AI의 발전과 맞물려서 새로운 여러 가지 트렌드들이 보이고 있습니다. 첫 번째는 이제 컴퓨팅에 대한 어떤 분야들인데, 사실 전통적인 컴퓨팅은 데이터를 처리하기 위한 용도로 많이 사용이 되고 있었고 컴퓨팅과 데이터는 분리가 되어 있었던 개념입니다만은, 최근에는 강력한 컴퓨팅 리소스들의 이런 확장으로 인해서 데이터에 대한 부분들도 점점 퀄리티가 좋아진다라는 것이죠. 예컨대 자율주행이라든지 로보틱스와 같은 분야들은 합성 데이터를 통해서 실제 리얼 데이터의 부족한 부분들을 많이 이렇게 보완하는 용도로 사용이 되고 있는 점들이 굉장히 주목할 만한 부분이라고 말씀드릴 수 있고, 두 번째는 앞서 키노트에서도 많이 얘기가 나왔었던 에이전틱 AI에 대한 부분들입니다. 이제는 에이전틱 AI는 어떤 새로운 종류의 소프트웨어 인터페이스로 자리임을 매기고 있는 것 같습니다. 즉 다양한 종류의 고부가가치 소프트웨어들은 기본적으로 에이전틱 AI 형태로 만들어지고 있고, 이런 것들이 기업용 소프트웨어의 핵심적인 어떤 표준으로 자리매김하고, 또 최근에 잘 알고 계시는 클라우드 코워크이라든지 또 오픈 클라우드 같은 걸로 인해서 많은 기업에 있어서 에이전틱 AI가 굉장히 중요한 화두가 되고 있죠. 세 번째는 피지컬 AI에 대한 부분인 것 같습니다. 즉 컴퓨터 내에 소프트웨어로 존재하던 어떤 AI가 피지컬 엔터티와 결합을 해서 우리 삶과 함께 할 수 있는 그런 부분들, 단순하게 휴머노이드 로보틱스를 넘어서서 스마트 팩토리라든지 자율주행 자동차라든지 스마트 카메라라든지 이런 많은 부분들을 저희는 피지컬 AI라고 부르고 있고, 실제 피지컬 AI가 인간의 삶과 함께하는 그런 상황에 놓여지다 보니까 결국은 인간이 삶에 존재하는 다양한 자연의 법칙들, 예를 들어서 피직스 로라든지 물리학, 과학, 생물학과 같은 이런 자연의 법칙들을 이해하고 활용하는 부분들도 현재 AI가 진화하고 있는 그런 모습이라고 말씀드릴 수 있겠습니다. 마지막으로는 이제 오픈 모델인데, 결국은 AI가 새로운 종류의 소프트웨어를 개발하는 방법론이라는 관점에서 보면 사실 이 소프트웨어에 있어서의 오픈 소스 모델이 얼마나 중요한지는 잘 알고 계실 겁니다. 그래서 AI에서도 오픈 모델이 차지하는 중요도가 점점 커지고 있다. 그래서 이런 여러 가지 이유들로 인해서 여전히 컴퓨팅의 수요들은 굉장히 폭발적으로 늘어나고 있습니다. 모델의 사이즈가 커지게 되면 퀄리티가 증가하는 그런 이 법칙으로 인해서 모델의 사이즈는 점점 매년 커지고 있고, 그리고 인퍼런스에 대한 부분들도 에이전틱 AI의 리즈닝 기법들이 이런 걸로 인해 가지고 더 이상 인퍼런스가 라이트하고 트레이닝이 헤비하다라는 믿음은 잘못됐다라는 것이죠. 인퍼런스에 대한 부분들도 점점 요구사항이 커지고 있고, 반면에 이런 토큰 제너레이션에 소요되는 비용은 급격하게 줄어들고 있습니다. 그렇기 때문에 이런 비용의 이 절감으로 인해서 더 많은 컴퓨팅 수요가 발생하게 되고, 이를 통해서 다시 더 많은 AI에 대한 성능이 증가하는 선순환 구조가 만들어지고 있다라고 말씀드릴 수 있겠습니다. 그래서 AI로 인한 소위 새로운 종류의 산업혁명의 시대가 머지않아 도래하고 있다라고 저희는 말씀드리고 있습니다. 전통적인 이 팩토리들은 사실 뭐 자본과 어떤 물자가 투입돼서 물건을 혁신적으로 만들어낼 수 있는 능력을 보여줬었다면, 새로운 종류의 AI 팩토리는 전기와 데이터가 들어가서 인텔리전스, 흔히 토큰이라고 표현하는 인텔리전스가 만들어내는 개념들이 AI 팩토리다라고 저희는 말씀드리고 있고, 이런 AI 팩토리들이 전통적인 산업들, 제조라든지 의료라든지 뭐 미디어라든지 이런 거랑 결합해서 혁신과 또 엄청난 생산성을 만들어내는 시기가 지금 다가오고 있다라는 것이죠. 그래서 새로운 컴퓨팅에는 새로운 종류의 컴포넌트가 필요할 겁니다. AI 팩토리에는 단순하게 뭐 LLM 모델이라든지 GPU만으로 구성될 수 있는 것이 아니라, 이 그림에서 보시는 것처럼 저희는 5레이어 에너지와 그 에너지를 활용하는 다양한 프로세서, 칩들과 그 칩들로 구성되어 있는 인프라스트럭처, 그리고 그 위에 다양한 종류의 AI 모델들, 이런 것들을 통해서 만들어지는 다양한 종류의 애플리케이션으로 이루어지는 것들이 실질적으로 AI 팩토리의 중요한 구성 요소이고, 엔비디아가 실제 에코시스템을 확보하기 위해서 만드는 많은 액티비티들은 이런 5가지 레이어의 주요한 이 파트너들과 협력하는 모양새가 저희의 주요한 액티비티가 되겠다라고 말씀드리겠습니다. 그래서 이런 AI 팩토리가 모든 종류의 엔터프라이즈 고객에게도 필요한 시점이 다가오고 있다는 것이죠. 그래서 지금까지는 주로 GPU나 AI를 필요로 하는 많은 고객들은 주로 기술적인 어떤 진입 장벽으로 인해서 글로벌 CSP라든지 혹은 니오 클라우드의 이 도움을 받아서 활용을 많이 했습니다만은, 예컨대 엔터프라이즈 고객 같은 경우는 보안의 문제라든지 또 데이터 가버넌스 문제로 인해서 온프렘 투자에 대한 요구사항들을 많이 가지고 계신 걸 알고 계실 겁니다. 그래서 실제로 클라우드 외에도 이런 엔터프라이즈 AI 팩토리라는 개념으로서 다양한 레퍼런스 아키텍처나 또 파트너들을 통한 협력 작업들을 저희가 진행을 해나가고 있다고 말씀드릴 수 있겠고, 그래서 시스코 같은 경우는 이제 시큐어 AI 팩토리라는 개념으로, 특히나 또 앞서도 말씀을 많이 해주셨습니다만, 시스코는 보안에 또 특히 강점이 있는 그런 회사이기 때문에 시스코의 다양한 하드웨어 소프트웨어들, 그리고 엔비디아의 하드웨어 소프트웨어를 결합한 이런 시큐어 AI 팩토리라는 개념으로 엔터프라이즈 AI 팩토리를 협력하는 그런 파트너로서 저희가 함께 일을 하고 있다. 그리고 또 시스코 하면은 뭐 네트워킹 빼놓을 수가 없겠죠. 그래서 작년 10월에 저희가 GTC에서 시스코 엔비디아의 스펙트럼 X가 호환 가능한 시스코 제품의 협력 어나운스먼트에 대한 발표를 저희가 진행을 했었고, 아마 올해부터 이 제품이 시장에 이용 가능한 걸로 알고 있습니다. 그래서 엔비디아의 이런 GPU 컴퓨팅 그런 역량과 또 시스코의 훌륭한 네트워킹 운영이라든지 매니지먼트 역량들을 결합한 굉장히 훌륭한 제품들로 조만간 여러분들을 찾아뵐 수 있을 거라고 기대를 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이런 AI 팩토리 기반으로 해서 엔비디아가 제공하는 다양한 엔터프라이즈 소프트웨어들, 뭐 앞서 말씀드렸던 피지컬 AI라든지 또 에이전틱 AI를 구동할 수 있는 다양한 종류의 소프트웨어들이 이제 엔비디아 AI 엔터프라이즈라는 이름으로서 이용 가능하고, 이런 부분들이 실제로 결합이 되면 다양한 말씀드렸던 그런 오픈 모델들과 결합해서 실제 기업 고객들이 효과적으로 쓸 수 있는 종류의 포트폴리오를 저희가 구성을 해드릴 수 있다라고 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 이제 마지막으로 짧게 베라루빈 설명을 좀 드릴 텐데, 그 이번 GTC에서 이제 그 발표됐었던 중요한 내용이 베라루빈 관련된 내용이었습니다. 물론 올해 그 한국의 많은 고객들은 블랙웰 B300 블랙웰 제품을 주로 많이 쓰고 계십니다만은, 올 하반기부터 베라루빈 시스템들을 저희가 시장에 공급할 계획을 가지고 있습니다. 베라루빈은 단순하게 GPU라든지 뭐 이런 것을 부르는 네임이 아니라 새로운 종류의 AI 슈퍼컴퓨팅 플랫폼이다 해서, 베라라는 CPU, 그리고 루빈이라는 GPU, 그리고 다양한 종류의 인터커넥트를 위한 그런 네트워킹 관련된 칩들, 그리고 이번에 저희가 새롭게 그 도입한 그록 LPU, 인퍼런스에 굉장히 최적화되어 있는 그록 LPU를 결합해서 단순하게 학습뿐만 아니라 추론에서도 강력한 성능을 낼 수 있는 그런 슈퍼컴퓨팅 아키텍처 플랫폼을 저희가 발표했고, 하반기부터 시장에 공급을 하게 될 예정입니다. 그래서 베라 루빈 NVL72 하나의 렉에 72개의 GPU가 fully connected 되어 있어 마치 거대한 하나의 GPU처럼 동작하게 만들 수 있는 베라 루빈 NVL72가 보시는 플랫폼이라고 생각하시면 되겠고, 실제 학습과 추론 모두에서 이전 이 블랙웰 GPU 플랫폼 대비 급격한 성능 개선, 그리고 여러 가지 전력 효율성 면에 있어서도 굉장히 뛰어난 모습을 보이고 있어서 다양한 고객들, 특히 올해 대한민국 정부의 소버린 AI 투자 관련해서도 베라 루빈이 관심이 많으셔서 저희 엔비디아도 연내 공급이 가능하게끔 하기 위한 노력들을 활발하게 진행을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 이제 시스코와도 베라 루빈 관련해서도 지속적인 협력을 저희가 진행을 해 나갈 예정이고요. 마지막으로 이제 현재 나와 있는 제품들이 블랙웰 제품, 그리고 방금 말씀드렸던 이제 루빈 이 아키텍처가 올 하반기부터 시장에 공급이 될 예정이고, 내년도에는 루빈 울트라라고 하는 제품, 그리고 2028년도에는 이번에 저희가 로사 파인만이라고 부르는 새로운 플랫폼을 내놓겠다라고 발표를 했습니다. 그래서 이런 다양한 단순하게 GPU만을 만드는 것이 아니라 여러 가지 종류의 칩들을 기반으로 이 강력한 AI 슈퍼컴퓨팅을 지속적으로 만들어내는 혁신들을 저희가 이어나갈 것이고, 꾸준히 시스코와도 협력을 이어나갈 것을 다시 한번 말씀드리겠습니다. 네, 발표를 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 엔비디아 코리아의 정소영 대표님 발표 감사합니다. 이어지는 세션도 동시 통역으로 진행됩니다. 이번 키노트 세션은 시스코 APJC 지역 고객 경험팀 총괄 겸 또 수석 부사장이신 제클린 귀첼라님께서 발표해 주시겠습니다. 큰 박수로 환영해 주십시오.
It's great to be back in Seoul. I need a little clicker, I think. Great to be back here. And as Ben, you said, the innovation happening here in Seoul is really at the heart of Asia and the world. So congratulations for the incredible progress that you are making as a country and a city. I wanted to start by sharing how Cisco can help you to empower your business with smarter digital solutions. Now think about the last time your check engine light came on. What did most of us do? We ignored it for days, weeks, until something actually broke down. Then we called a mechanic, described the symptoms as best we could, waited for a diagnosis, and hoped it would not be too expensive. Now imagine a different experience. Imagine your car called you before the light ever came on. It said, hey, I've noticed your transmission fluid has been dropping over the past few weeks. And based on your driving patterns, you've probably got about 10 days before there's a big problem. Would you like me to book in your car in a shop down the road on Thursday at 2 p.m. Do you want me to book it? Imagine your car called you. This is exactly the experience that we're trying to create in the new agentic era with Cisco IQ. We are taking you to predictive and proactive, from guesswork to safer, smarter, and faster. We want to anticipate and remove obstacles so that you can accelerate your innovation. That is our goal. Cisco IQ is an AI-driven platform that knows your infrastructure. It helps you run it with higher efficiency and lower disruptions. So how does Cisco IQ work? First, it builds a digital twin of your infrastructure environment, providing proactive and predictive insights into your environment. Using our large language model, we provide best practices, device hardening standards, advisories, and many of the things that you need to keep your environment safe. Second, it delivers automation and troubleshooting, allowing you to work hand in hand with our Cisco engineers, together with the Cisco IQ trusted agents. They conduct infrastructure assessments to tell you exactly where you have vulnerabilities and exactly what you need to do to resolve them at speed. Cisco IQ is operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, making sure we understand the risk, we resolve the risk before it happens. Essentially, preventing incidents and outages, ensuring you have a reliable infrastructure that not only you, but your customers can rely on. So what does this all mean to your business? Think of 3 key outcomes. Resiliency, predicting and preventing risks in your infrastructure before they happen. Simplicity, clear recommendations as opposed to the diagnostic maze of systems we have out there now to deal with. And time to value, problems resolved before any disruption to your operation. We've evolved our Cisco support platform from manual to digital AI ops, leveraging our decades of knowledge cases on this infrastructure from all over the world. The goal of our agentic platform is to drive real business value. As I mentioned, our millions of real knowledge cases is the foundation of our large language model. That's how we learn. That's how we keep learning on what's happening around infrastructure all over the world. What we know is that we can drive 30 to 50% reduction in security risks and unplanned downtime. This is real data coming from real customers who are using the system today. The transformation of services in the AI era is real, and it's happening today. It's happening every day as we are using the tools and helping you keep your infrastructure resilient, as well as helping you modernize it. Now, the other priority that we have been driving is simplicity. Simplicity in how Cisco and customer experience in particular supports you. So what have we done? For support services, we have now flexible tiers. We have AI-driven support. We have expert-led support. We also have signature for your most critical assets, which means we will commit to 15-minute response times and guaranteed service levels for your restoration. And for professional services, we're also bringing in agentic AI. We're now embedding services as code into professional services that allows more automated, data-driven workflows to accelerate your implementations of infrastructure, of equipment, from 9 months to 9 days. That's what we're aiming for, speed, but accuracy and quality is absolutely key to that as well. So with the simplified portfolio, what we're saying is we want professional services to accelerate your migrations, your implementations of your infrastructure, and we want AI-driven support services to optimize your IT investments and make sure you're resilient all the time. And of course, expert engineers ensuring you achieve the value every step of the way. So, Cisco IQ, let me share a couple of more stats which I think bring it to life. It's designed to drive real outcomes. And I talked about the TAC cases earlier. Of the 1.5 million cases that come into TAC every year from our customers all around the world, 25% could have been avoided. They were configuration errors. They were human errors. They could have been avoided. Imagine having 98% of success rate on your changes in your environment. in your infrastructure, 98% success rate. Imagine leveraging agentic so that you can move forward with your changes 5% faster, which means less change windows. That also helps. So essentially, we want to drive these efficiency gains that will give you back not only time, but also peace of mind. Remember the check engine light that I talked about earlier? Well, that's not exactly Cisco IQ. We are more like a cockpit of an autonomous supercar. We deliver agentic AI and combine it with human expertise. And the human expertise is critical. They're our best engineers to build a powerful ecosystem that drives results and redefines customer experience for the AI era. Moving to personalized, predictive, and proactive services. That is our goal. That is what we're doing today. And we see this as critical for two reasons. The first, improving trust with you. And the second, time to value. We know your investments are important, and we want to make sure you get the time to the value as quickly and safely as possible. Thank you for listening. The CX team is absolutely here. We are ready to support you. We are supporting many of you today. The team is here on the ground, ready to talk to you and accelerate your innovation. Thank you.
네, 좋은 발표 감사합니다. 자, 이번엔 시스코 커넥트 2016 코리아의 마지막 기조연설입니다. 시스코 글로벌 마케팅 수석 부사장이신 브라이언 존스님의 귀중한 인사이트를 들어보겠습니다.
Every technological breakthrough of the last 40 years has depended on one thing: the network. A system of connections that forms the foundation of innovation. Like water, power, and transportation, society can't function without it. Now, in the AI era, we're experiencing the most consequential breakthrough yet, where AI agents work with us to solve problems once beyond reach. But making the most of AI requires a different kind of infrastructure, one that can handle the enormous demands AI puts on networks, compute, and security. That's why Cisco is reimagining the data center, the workplace, and how it's all protected. Reinventing IT operations with agentic AI, fusing security directly into the network, and turning astronomical amounts of data into digital resilience. The AI era is here. It thrives on Cisco, the critical infrastructure for the AI era.
Again, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to spend with us here at the Connect. I also want to point out one really, I think, interesting thing. This is potentially, we'll wait and see how it ends up at the end of the day, this is potentially the largest Connect on the entire planet. So we're really excited to have you here, and we have a tremendous day planned for you to go deeper into the conversations and the technologies and the connections that we've talked about earlier here. And so I think what I want to spend some time on is talking a little bit about how Cisco is powering this from a culture perspective, from a company perspective, and bringing it home for you that way. So we are the #1 B2B brand on the planet, and we've been that way for a number of years. And we believe that there are two key elements that makes us #1 from a B2B perspective. One is all of the innovation that we spent time talking about here inside the walls of Cisco, but with our partners like NVIDIA, many of our partners that are here in the room today and out in the foyer, delivering on these solutions. So that innovation is really what's driving that #1 B2B brand. But the second element that we think is also driving it and has put us in that #1 position is the concept of trust. And so when you think about everything that we've talked about earlier during some of these other sessions, it is a tremendous amount of cultural change that we are also going through as an industry. And it requires all of the data that we have from your organizations, that you're putting those into these models, you're putting these into these technologies that are literally changing the way you interact with your customers, your partners, and the world around you. And so trust plays a really critical component to that B2B brand piece. And so Ben talked a little bit about the journey that we've been on together in building the internet and then building cloud and building mobility and all the things that go along with that. Cisco has been there every step of the way, but a key ingredient that we believe that we infuse into that is trust. And so when we think about how we combine the power of all of you, and you bring together the most important asset that exists at the companies that you work for and that you represent, it's the human intelligence, it's the people that make up these companies and make up the capabilities that we bring to our partners, to our sales teams, but also to our stakeholders and to your end users that you service from a company perspective. And so the human element is a really important element. And when we think about culturally how AI will change the world around us, it's really about optimizing all of you and helping you provide better, more connected service to your stakeholders. And when you combine that with the power of the agents that we've all talked about and the things that are evolving through this pace, which is the agents, the apps, moving then into robotics, which is already happening, and then humanoid robotics that are going to be working right alongside us. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity here, but there's also a tremendous amount of trust that's needed to infuse into what we do. And so one of the things that Ben started the conversation off with today was our concept of One Cisco and what we focus on and how we really organize our solutions, our focus, our innovations, all the things that we're bringing together there. And so we built this slide about 18 months ago where we talked about yesterday's approaches don't really support the reality that we're all going forward into. And so we built this thing like 18 months ago, and many people sort of looked at it 18 months ago and said, not exactly sure I see that yet, right? But we were on the front end of where we believe the world is going, and I think now people see this. This is not AI is evolving to us. We are right in the dead middle of it. And so how do we bring together data center and workplaces and connect humans and AI to really create the future of what we're all driving for? And so you're going to spend time today in our breakout sessions, working with our partners, seeing solutions out in the Solutions Expo, where you're going to see this stuff come to life. And we're really focused on how do we bring that forward. Now, one of the other things that we do as we are looking out into the future, we do a lot of work in surveying what is happening out in the industry around us. And in a recent survey that we did, a global survey that we did, 80% of the executives that believe that agentic AI in our customer set is essential for their survival by the end of 2027. Now, what's the interesting word there? We believe the interesting word is survival. Right? You're going to have to embrace and bring forward innovation in this space to be relevant, to be competitive, to be successful on the world stage as companies, or we will not, or these companies will cease to exist. And so we think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, but there's also a tremendous amount of effort that you're going to have to put into bringing those things together. So the thing that Cisco is really focused on, and Ben started this conversation, we've extended that through some of the conversations with our innovation, our technology, but Cisco is the only company that combines the power of the network with security, observability, and collaboration to power where we are all going as a society and as technologists and solutions providers out to the industries that we serve. And so we are really excited about the role that we have played in the past in building the internet, creating mobility, cloud, all of the things that come alongside that. And now, as we all move through this AI era, we think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. But it requires all of these things to be brought together. And so Ben used this slide earlier, and we talk about One Cisco from the concept of three key areas. AI-ready data centers, really building data centers that meet your business needs today, but are more focused on where you're going as well, providing investment protection in what you do today versus where you're going in the future. And then how do we redefine the workplace? As we came out of COVID, as a society, as a globe, as we came out of COVID, the definition of workplace has continued to evolve radically. It's the office that you go to, but it's the airport that you're in. It's today, while you're here, you're going to be interacting with work from a mobility perspective. Your persona is going to change all day today, too. You're a professional right now learning about the future and connecting with your peers and colleagues. But then you're going to, on a break, you're going to switch back over to the parent or friend profile that you have or persona that you have. And so how you think about workplace and how you think about modernizing that is a really critical component. And then that concept of AI-ready data centers and future-proof workplaces has to sit on this framework of resilience, this base of resiliency. So as we combine the power of human and the power of technology through AI, when is a good time for that to not be available? And Jackie just talked about some of these things. It's never a good time to not have availability now. It just continues to ratchet up the pressure that we all face in delivering on those things. So then with that global secure connectivity, embedding security into the fabric of the network, into the fabric of our infrastructure is a really critical component. And then using AI to accelerate all of these things. So AI is embedded in our products, but it's also embedded in the way we deliver these products. Jackie just talked about some of that stuff. And we think we have a tremendous path forward there. Again, focused on the survival of the very businesses that we all represent and the innovation that we have to bring forward. Now, we know the world is noticing, right? We know that people are seeing what we are doing collectively as partners and as customers and in our industries. When we think about IDC is looking at this from, this has really changed the conversation that you are having with your leadership and that your leadership is having at the board level. And then the second piece is CRN is saying, hey, the breadth of portfolio, again, combining the power of networking with security, observability, and collaboration, brings together the power of Cisco to help us all drive the transformation that we're responsible for. And so I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And then building out this platform narrative. Bill spoke about this earlier, about the solutions that we're bringing that are at the very top of the pyramid from a compute perspective and a capabilities perspective. But that will come down radically and fast into the enterprise and then even spreading further and further into our base as companies. And so we think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And we have, you're going to get a chance today in the Solutions Expos to see some of those solutions in action and talk about some of the ways we've delivered value there. Three things that I would just highlight. One, Workday, as you know, a software provider in the HR and people space and the finance space, they found themselves growing so fast that they could not deploy solutions as quickly as their account teams were out selling them. We helped them deploy a set of infrastructure and radically change the way they have thought about deploying technology and solutions. If they can't deploy the solution that they have sold to their customer, they can't generate revenue. And so there's a really interesting thing, and we've got a case study on Workday. British Telecom in the middle. British Telecom is one of the largest telecom providers on the planet, providing telecom solutions to over 180 countries around the world. We helped them revolutionize their workplace coming out of COVID. They had over 300 offices and buildings scattered around the globe that they collapsed down to 30 different sites. So 300 to 30 different sites. Radically changing the way they interacted with their employees and those employees interacted with the technology that it takes to deliver BT's products to their customers. They develop an individual digital twin for every employee that they have that is now interacting through the capabilities of these 30 smart buildings that they have built into their infrastructure. And then the last place is Singapore Airlines. They leverage our Splunk technology to radically change the way they provide customer service and they provide availability and uptime to the entire airline. And many of our folks probably flew in on Singapore Air to come to the event here. And so using the power of Splunk, they were able to do away with so many downtime opportunities and really create that digital resilience that we talked about earlier. So I want to, on behalf of the executive team, I want to, and the Korean team that's put on this Connect, I want to thank you once more for making the time to be here and for investing in where we are going as a future. We have a tremendous amount of opportunity in front of us. You've got a great day ahead of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, and thank you for joining us on this journey. Have a great day.
네, 감사합니다. 이것으로 오전 키노트 세션을 마치도록 하겠습니다. 오후 세션은